welcome to my channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Click the little subscribe button down there. I would appreciate it. Please share the video. Please like the video, all that fun stuff. So what I'm going to do today is kind of my humble tribute to the VINwiki type videos. If you don't watch that channel, it's a pretty cool channel. It's a lot of guys telling car stories, really good backdrop, really cool channel, a lot of funny things on there. So anyway, I'll probably never get to be on VINwiki. Who knows, one day maybe I will. But for now, this is my small little tribute, and I hope you enjoy this story. And if you do, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs up anyway. Be a nice guy. So anyway, please subscribe, and thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the video. Here we go. The story starts in, I believe it was the summer of 2000. And I live in Denton County, Texas, and so I live in a small town called Aubrey. The next biggest town over is a town called Denton. So Highway 380 that runs between Aubrey and Denton used to be a 2-lane highway, just an old kind of a country highway. And they totally destroyed it, put in 6 lanes, 3 lanes on each side with a turn lane in the middle, so which was really nice. But during the construction, they had the whole road completed. The eastbound side they had completed and had all the lines on and everything. The westbound side was also completed, but they still they didn't have all the lines put on it yet, all the proper lines. So they had it shut down to just 2 lanes on what would normally be the westbound side. So they had it going east and west on that one side. All the other lanes that were completely finished, it sat for probably 4 or 5 months. And they wouldn't let anybody drive on it. So from my house in Aubrey to Denton, there's about a 4, maybe 5 mile stretch of that highway, and it was 35 miles an hour, and it was a construction zone. Even though it was completed, there were never any construction workers there for that 4 or 5 months. It just sat. So it was really frustrating to daily drive back and forth on that road, knowing that it could be open, but they just didn't open it. So I was working night shift. I worked at a big, at the time I was working at a big facility, a big factory. I was a supervisor on night shift. So I was driving to work, and as in my typical fashion, I was running a little bit late. And I get on Highway 380, and even though it was 35 miles an hour, nobody ever went 35 miles an hour on it. Nobody ever did. And at midnight, you know, right before midnight when I had to be at work, there were hardly any cars on it ever. So I get off of 377, I get on Highway 380, it's 35 miles an hour, and right as I get into the Denton city limit, I've still got another 2 or 3 miles of this 35 mile an hour zone to go. There's probably 10 or 15 cars stacked up, and they're just going 35 miles an hour, and they're taking forever. And I know that seems like, you know, not that big of a deal, but like I said, I was running late, I was a little frustrated. I was used to traveling that road all the time. Nobody ever drove the 35 mile an hour construction speed limit on it. So I'm like, I gotta get going. I hit the gas. I'm driving an 83 Bronco, definitely not the quickest vehicle I've ever owned. However, it was peppy. So when there's no cars coming the other way, I hit the gas, I go forward, and I go all the way to the front of the line. And when you know it, when I got to the front of the line, the first car in line was a cop car. Yes. So once I got up there, I thought, that makes a lot of sense now. That's why everybody's going 35. So when I realized it was a cop, I put on my turn signal. I pulled over in front of him. He immediately lit me up. I pulled over into the area on the south side of the highway that was all finished, that they wouldn't let us drive on. I pulled into that area. He pulled over. Embarrassing. All the cars that were in line behind him drove by, rolled their windows down, honked their horns, and, you know, shouted things at me. I'm not going to repeat any of the things they shouted at me, but I deserved it. So, police officer comes up to my window, and, you know, what's the deal, buddy? So I explained to him, hey, I'm running late, or night shift, this and that. And after I started talking to him, I realized I know this guy. I know this police officer. Probably 7, 8 years before that, my wife, when we first got married, worked at a bank. This police officer worked security at that bank. I kind of loosely knew him, you know, was acquainted with him through that. So I realized it's him. I was going to say something, but I thought, no, I'm really embarrassed. That was really stupid of me to do that. So I just let it lie. He was super, super nice. I never let on that I knew who he was. He was super nice. He wrote me the ticket. He even told me, hey, I'm going to do you a favor. It's going to look like I'm not, but I am. I'm going to write you this ticket, but I'm not going to write it that it was in the construction zone. So you'll be able to take defensive driving if you want to, or pay the fine, and it won't be a double fine. I said, thank you, sir. I messed up. I got my ticket, signed it, drove on to work. Completed traffic school, or defensive driving, we call it here in Texas. Got the ticket dismissed, didn't go on my record, no big deal, end of story. Just really stupid thing. So about 10 years later, almost exactly 10 years later, fast forward through my life, the factory that I worked at was an aircraft factory. After 2001, after 9/11, the aircraft industry went into the toilet. I lost my job at that time. I got laid off. I had a little construction business for a little while, had my first oil field job, worked that job for 6 years, and got laid off from that when the oil field took a dive back in 2009. So then I got a job working for the sheriff's department. I worked in the jail. I was a detention officer in the jail there for the local county, and had been working there 6-8 months, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but I was working in a control room where you control the doors where the prisoners are in pods. So a police officer, I believe he was now working for the sheriff's department, and he was assuredly he was a detective now, walks into my control room and requests to see one of the prisoners. He had some questioning, whatever. So I look at him and I recognize him, and he's the same police officer. So I thought, we got a couple minutes here to kill while this guy's getting ready to come out. So I proceeded to tell him the story of what had happened and the ticket that he had given me. And he started listening, and he goes, yeah, I remember that. He said, were you driving a white Ford Bronco? And I said, I most assuredly was. And we had a good laugh about it, and it was kind of funny that story had stuck in his mind out of all the no telling how many tickets he had written over that 10-year period. And he told me he just couldn't believe, he looks in his mirror and here comes somebody driving up beside him, passing in this no passing zone, construction zone, also speeding. So it kind of stuck with him too. So it was kind of funny in that respect. But anyway, then I, proceeded to tell him, well, hey, you might know me. I don't know if you remember me, because now this is, it's going on 20 years since I was first acquainted with him when my wife worked at that bank. So I told him who I was, and then I told him who my wife was, and he goes, yeah. And he completely remembered. He knew my wife's name, the whole situation. And he said, that night, when I pulled you over, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you tell me that you knew me or who your wife was, that kind of thing? He said, I probably wouldn't have gave you the ticket. And I said, you know what? When you do something that stupid, you just got to take your medicine. So that was the whole story. I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.